Salam everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the brand new Redmi Note 10 Pro. Xiaomi's just announced it this morning, and of course, there was a lot of things being put together in this device. First and foremost, the starting price starts up at $279, and that's ridiculous. Not only that, large AMOLED display, and I did say AMOLED with an always-on display, 120 frames per second refresh rate on this device, but not only that, headphone jack, stereo speakers, large battery, fast charging battery. The features do not stop with the Redmi Note 10 Pro. This is TK, let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified whenever we have new videos on the channel. Here's the unboxing experience. Pretty straightforward. You get the box, the phone, the USB-C to USB Type-A charger, the 33-watt charger that gives us the ability of charging or fast charging, the 5,000 milliampere battery that's built into this device, and of course a clear case that's also included in the box. Obviously, the 2021 is going to be the year of everybody saying basically that the charger is included in the box, because some players are deciding to remove it. Everybody else is actually making it into a feature. But I really like that. The one that we have here obviously is the Onyx Gray. There's other colors available on top of the other formats or basically variants. There's going to be a 664, a 6128, and an 8128. The model that I have here is the 6128. That's going to be at about $299. The 664 is going to be $279, although at a special price at the initial release on AliExpress. And then of course the 8128 is going to be at $329. Again, very, very budget friendly and of course budget conscious device. The main processor that we're looking at here is the Snapdragon 732G, and that's going to be a Octa Core processor. The phone itself obviously is boosting a 108 megapixel sensor on the back, and that's going to be one of the main characteristics of it. The other thing that we're also going to be looking at is, in fact, as I mentioned to you guys, we have a headphone jack at the top, stereo speakers, still have the IR blaster, a large, very large display here that is 6.7 inches. It's an AMOLED or a dot display, what they're calling it. The fingerprint sensor is sitting on the side, and that's how you saw me unlock it. But the main benefit, it's running at 120 hertz. And again, always on display, stereo speakers support, 5,000 milliampere battery. The features go on and on. Quad camera setup on the back, single camera setup on the front, and of course MIUI 12 running on top of Android 11. Now, the Redmi line of devices obviously in the past did not include AMOLED displays. For the most part, we've always been stuck with IPS LCDs. So first time AMOLED display, again, a large 6.7 inch display here. As I mentioned, stereo speakers, bottom firing on top of the, using the top one as well. Sound very, very nice. But not only that, the actual headphone jack actually has some EQ optimizations in there, and this sounds pretty good. So high-res audio is definitely going to be supported here. The main benefit, of course, is the large AMOLED display. MIUI 12 here is very, very fluid. Now, the Snapdragon 732 is not going to give us 5G. This is basically a 4G LTE connectivity. So for me in the US, I've been using it here on T-Mobile, and I've been getting LTE perfectly fine. But keep in mind, again, the starting price on this is $279. So we have to also understand that this is very much focusing on the bang for the buck experience, not necessarily trying to give us 5G. But again, 4G LTE works really nice. And I did a few speed tests here in the US, at least where I live. And overall, I'm able to get somewhere close to as fast as 77 down and 53 up. So depending on where you are, you're going to be able to get good experience. Mentioned to you also Android 11 on top of MIUI 12. So of course, we're going to be getting all of the optimizations of MIUI 12. No word yet on MIUI 12.5, but I'm imagining that will be coming very soon. So if you go on the About phone, we'll see it right there. The global device, this is the Redmi Note 10 Pro, 128 gigs of internal storage, MIUI 12, and again, as I mentioned to you guys, security patch update of 1.121. So running pretty much the latest specifications. My model does have 6 gigs of RAM, and there is going to be another one for 8 gigs. All of the other optimizations that we've seen here, the always on display, obviously now since we have AMOLED, is going to be basically present, and of course it works really, really nice. The other option, of course, you can customize the display. As I mentioned, 120 hertz. There's light mode and dark mode. By default, when you first pick it up, it's going to be on light mode. I turned it on, and you also have the ability of scheduling it, so keep that option as well. And of course, you can also push the dark mode a little bit to further or other applications that may not support it. Brightness level, you can also use obviously the light sensor there. Reading mode, color scheme here, if you want to be able to set it up. I left it to saturated. You can keep it on auto. It's a little bit less saturated, but definitely depending to your preference. The refresh rate, you're able to pick between 60 hertz and 120 hertz. By default, it is set to 60. I set it up to 120, and it works obviously perfectly fine. Full screen mode, auto applications, controlled status bar, a lot of those things are very nice. Under sound and vibration is where it kind of gets also a little bit nicer. When you get into additional settings, you can see here that we have the ability of controlling the sounds and obviously disabling them if you don't want them. Under sound effects is where it gets very nice. So there's a couple of things you need to keep in mind. This has a headphone jack. So If I plug in my headphone jack, of course, you'll notice right there, first and foremost, we have the ability of turning on different options. You can use the Hifi audio, which disables some of the other customizations to boost the audio and clear up the sound, and it actually does perform a little bit better. Or you can basically use the pre-built options here. So you can use the Smart, which is the auto, and then personally customize the EQ to your preference. So the audio experience here is going to definitely work really nice. Volume adjustments, all the good stuff. And on top of that, of course, since this actually also still supports an FM radio, connecting the headphone jack enables us to also use the FM radio that's built in. So I really like all of the features that they've packed into this. So theme support, wallpaper support, of course, home screen support, and as you saw here at the beginning, we obviously have the support for video lock screen wallpapers with Goku, and of course, just having it just set up with the whole family. So, and of course, fingerprint sensor is crazy fast. There's something to be said about fingerprint sensors that are on the side. They definitely perform a lot faster than in display, or basically the ones that we've seen lately. So from a speed, performance-wise, this definitely attributes to that. Now, of course, we're going to talk about the cameras. Xiaomi has focused a lot on this, and of course, they talked a lot about it. So when you open up the camera application, you're automatically taken into photo. Obviously, we have the wide-angle lens here. Now, keep in mind that the wide-angle lens is an 8-megapixel sensor, where the 108-megapixel sensor is going to be the wide-angle, not the ultra-wide, meaning that's going to be your primary shooter. We have a 5-megapixel telemacro lens, essentially a telephoto and a macro lens, and of course a 2-megapixel depth sensor. So for the most part, 3 cameras that you can use on the back, and on the front, we have a 16-megapixel camera that is going to be able to give us 1080p video. On the back, primary, as far as the 108-megapixel sensor, the max we can go is 4K 30 frames per second, and that's not a limitation of the sensor, it's a limitation of the processor of the 732G. We have video mode, we have pro mode, we obviously have portrait mode, we also have the ability of jumping into more. Now, more gives us access to a lot more, not just a little bit. I had them actually just set up in this format. But for the most part, we obviously have short videos, 108 megapixel full sensor, night mode, panorama, document, vlogging style, dual video, the ability of using the front-facing and the back-facing sensor at the same time. But not only that, also kind of customizing it. So let's say I want to make the main sensor here. The bottom sensor going to be the main, and I'll be just sitting here in the small one. It looks really nice, and you can customize it, of course. Last but not least, we have time-lapse, slow motion, long exposure, and clone. Now, one of the things that they showed us on stage was the ability of actually shooting some interesting videos. And, you know, one of them was obviously the ability of using clone. So clone gives you the ability of actually customizing the experience. Now, I tried shooting it with my son here last night. It didn't look as good, mostly because the configuration, we couldn't kind of get it to look as nice as possible. So you look right there, my son's moving there, and then, of course, he grabs it, and then it didn't get the frame in the right format. But overall, it kind of looks, again, as what it's intending. You can actually use it and play with it a little bit, and of course get some really nice experiences. Let's go ahead and do a quick sample of the front-facing camera and the back-facing camera at their highest resolution. So we'll start off with the front-facing camera. This is a quick front-facing 1080p 30 frames per second sample. The audio and video obviously from the front-facing sensor here. Now obviously the main powerhouse is on the back, capable of shooting 4K 30 frames per second. So let's go ahead and switch over to that. Went ahead and switched over to the primary sensor in the back. Now 4K 30 frames per second will be the maximum we can shoot. We have some birds flying around us, and of course this is a good example of the audio and video that you should be able to expect here. Now, you're able to shooting video also with the wide-angle lens, although that's going to be capped at 1080p 30 frames per second. So 4K is only capable on the primary shooter in the back. And as you saw right there, the video is pretty good. Again, 4K 30 on the back and 1080p 30 on the front. Let's go ahead and play a quick song here. This is Jumbo by Alex Scrindo. Going to go all the way just to get kind of a sense of how the stereo speakers play here. And let's go ahead and start. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and start it at right about where the main drop kind of happens, right there, 54 seconds.
Jack it up.
Now, as you heard there, the sound actually was pretty good. The main difference here, essentially, to keep in mind is that it's not using the top earpiece. It has actually its own opening for the speaker. That's a little bit different than most devices that you see on the market. So when we kind of combine all of that, the features that we get so far are crazy. 6.7, again, 120 hertz refresh rate, the ability of just basically scrolling through and just basically getting the smooth 120 frames per second refresh rate. And as you can see right there, depending on how the refresh rate on the display, it'll actually kind of go up and down, but essentially it does clock in and it's running at over 112, 113, 110. As long as I'm actually keep refreshing the display and forcing it to keep refreshing, it will basically jump back up. So very nice, very good AMOLED display, but I'm pretty sure you guys want to see the gaming experience, as you already kind of see there. I have the Kishi controller sitting there for a couple of reasons. We're going to be playing a few games in here. I'm going to share with you guys some experience there. But you'll notice I also have GeForce Now installed, the Kishi controller, Asphalt 9, Modern Combat Versus, Call of Duty, Pubg, as well as Genshin Impact. We'd still have the Game Turbo, that's a built-in feature of Xiaomi's devices, and essentially it aggregates all of the apps that are considered to be games. So if I go in here and I say I want to be able to add a GeForce Now, because it wasn't added before, I'll add it manually. And at this point, next time I'm actually using it, I'll be able to see where GeForce Now is positioned, and I can actually launch it. And this is going to enable me to be able to play the game that you saw on the cover. And that is Cyberpunk 2027. So let's go ahead and jump into a quick sample of gaming experience of how does it actually work on the brand new Redmi Note 10 Pro.
The only thing that'll get you a chance at grabbing that chip. Park will be waiting for you at Lizzie's bar. Good luck.
The 700 series processors from Qualcomm have not disappointed. The 732G here performs very, very nicely, and of course the G for gaming gives us a really good gaming experience. Keep in mind the 1080p 120Hz refresh rate, so obviously some of the resolutions may not be supported or may need just some more time to be optimized for our device. Playing Pubg, Call of Duty, Modern Combat Versus, Kishi, using the Kishi controller, obviously we're playing that, as well as using GeForce Now to be able to play, again, as you saw, Cyberpunk 2077. Now that is more of a cloud gaming, but the fact that it runs really nicely with the controller, the Kishi controller, again, very, very nice, a very, very capable device that will give you a great gaming experience. 5,000 milliampere battery lasts almost forever. Again, there's no 5G, so even that benefits the battery life. 33-watt charging to be able to charge it up really fast, so no wireless charging, but again, 33-watt charging. And of course, headphone jack, stereo speakers, all of the things that we covered today are making this a very good deal if you're looking to get an LTE-enabled, basically a Redmi Note 10 Pro, which again features AMOLED and a large display. Great for content consumption and content creation because the cameras that we have here are also really nice. Now, again, 1080p 30 is the maximum on the front-facing camera, so if you're really wanting to get some of the best images, my recommendation is to use that primary 108 megapixel there. I find that the images, even in portrait mode, look a little bit better. Not to say that the front one is bad. It's just, again, if you compare the two, you're definitely going to see, as you're looking right now, you can definitely pick which one was taken with the back-facing sensor. The overall experience is very nice, again, at a very good price. Thank you very much to Redmi and Xiaomi for allowing me to check out the Redmi Note 10 Pro. Let me know in the comments below what do you guys think. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next one.